Okay, in this video we have a Springfield Trapdoor. This is a 1870 and this is in 5070. With all the fun and all the recent problems with getting ammunition, okay, a subscriber ran across the problem where you can't get the brass for 5070 no more unless you pay anywhere from $5 to $6, almost $7 a piece for them. And I never really had a ton of it. So how a trapdoor works is when you load a cartridge, and this is 5070 brass, you put it in there and the extractor ejector is there, and then you would close the breech down, and then when you open it, it ejects the cartridge out. So firing a standard 5070, we'll fire a couple here. No big deal. Get another one. There you go. Well, the individual didn't like the idea of paying $6 for brass. So he come up with the idea of taking 32 gauge shotgun shells and converting them to 5070. Well, I found that to do that is not that much of a problem. It's basically trimming the brass and needling it, running it up the die. Now this cartridge will not fit in an Italian rifle of some sort made in 5070, be it a Trapdoor or I got a Sharps rifle. This cartridge won't fit in there. So when you go to put it in the Trapdoor, you run into a pretty serious problem. Because what happens is when you go to set this in, there'll be resistance, and if you force it, what happens is this rim is small enough in diameter that it actually wedges up against the ejector and the receiver wall and will jam. And if you force it down, you will crush it, you will damage the gun, you'll screw things up, is what I'm saying. So this idea was not good. But to be fair, if you take it, close it, get the ejector to not spring out, you can get this thing to chamber in there without crushing it, and it will close. And fire. And it will eject. So, is this a good idea to convert these? Well, in a pinch, you can get it to work. You'd have to reclose the bolt, bring it up, don't kick the ejector. You can get the cartridge to chamber to where it's just barely hanging on the extractor, and get it to shoot. Now these are also a lot thinner than 5070, and how they will stand up over time I don't know. The reason I kind of don't like this idea is if someone got a hold of these cartridges, they could damage the gun, they could crush the case, If you had black powder in there, you could inadvertently set the case off. It'll work in a way, but you have to be very careful. So that's why I brought this thing out here today, just to give a warning and basically bop some rounds out of this old gun I haven't shot in a while. Alright. Yeah, so we loaded them up. Let's get a little range time and shoot these. Shooting a little high, so I gotta use some Kentucky windage here. And again, open the case, close it again, don't trip the ejector, load the cartridge. So it can be used, got to be a bit careful with it. These old classic guns are fun to shoot. Now I did make a series of videos on how to do this. The reason being, and why you don't have to be a member, is because it was donated to me. The time and that in there. So there's a possibility that I may post them just to say I did not lose the info. Alright, that's all the shot shell. Let me straighten up the bench here. Now I got my last 4 rounds of actual 50-70 brass, that is. Much nicer. Yeah. Let's go down and see how I did. Well, at 50 yards, that load I developed isn't that bad, and that is with smokeless powder. So it looks like I might review that for the members. First few shots were up high, and then using some Kentucky windage in that. That's a pretty good group right there, I would say. A fairly accurate gun, 50 yards off the bench, and it is a 50 caliber with a 450 grain bullet, so something to respect. Alright guys, hit the like button, subscribe, and stay tuned.